All right, everyone, we will go ahead and kick off with today's webinar. Thank you to all of those in attendance today. We greatly appreciate your participation in what is the kickoff to our September 2024 webinar series. We are going to be opening up the admission cycle for the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law starting on January 15th of 2024 for the September 2024 intake, so next fall. And this is our kickoff. This is the launch to what has always been a great resource for individuals seeking additional information when it comes to the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law program, or GDipICL program for short. So this is going to be a fantastic webinar. We have some fantastic speakers lined up, speakers that attendees have wanted to hear from for quite some time. And I'm going to introduce them in a little bit. But to begin our session here today, I want to start off with our land acknowledgement. So Queen's University is situated on traditional unceded Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. It is important for us to continue to acknowledge the unceded lands that we are physically situated on, wherever you are located across Canada. We know that there are significant atrocities that have been committed that are still coming to light to this day. We are really aware that it is important for us to acknowledge our indigeneity at Queen's, and we encourage anybody who wants to learn more about indigeneity and the Indigenous populations of their areas to do their own research. But also, if you want to learn more about Queen's University and indigeneity, visit our Office of Indigenous Initiatives website, as well as the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center. Lots of great resources available by individuals who are doing fantastic work across Queen's campus. All right, let's introduce our speakers. So myself, I am Don Ames. I'm the Manager of Admissions and Recruitment. If you've attended any of our past webinars, you've seen me, but the other individuals you haven't seen, and these are people that you desperately want to hear from. I'll start off by introducing Sharry Aiken, the Academic Director for the GDipICL program and instructor with the Faculty of Law, or Professor with the Faculty of Law. And we have along with us two former GDipICL students, now alumni. We have Peri Wong with us, GDipICL graduate and current RCIC-IRB, and Raidel Quintana, also a GDipICL graduate, alumni now, and RCIC-IRB. So welcome to you three. Thank you very much for participating in today's webinar. We're going to have a pretty broad agenda here today with very specific information from each of us, which is kind of an odd way of putting it, but it's going to really encompass an overview of the program. We're going to take a look at what the student experience was like from Peri and Raidel, and then I'm going to briefly take you through a little bit of information regarding the admissions process. At the end, we solicited questions from all of those who registered for the webinar beforehand. We're not going to be doing any Q&A directly in the webinar today. We've already pre-selected what we'll answer, and then we'll answer those fantastic questions. Thank you to all of those who submitted questions. And then at the end, I'm going to just do some wrap up and tell you what are the next steps for the remainder of the webinar series leading up to that January 15th launch of our September 2024 application. To kick off, though, I'm going to pass it over to Sharry to take us through some highlights of the GDipICL.
Thank you so much, Don, and welcome everyone. So it's my pleasure to tell you a little bit about this program that we developed at Queen's from the ground up a few years ago now. First of all, it's the only English language pathway to becoming a licensed immigration consultant in Canada. So we have a counterpart program in Quebec offered in French, but for anyone who wants to study in English, it's currently the only program in Canada. We receive accreditation from the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants. So that's the federal regulator. And our program and its learning objectives align with the college's essential competencies for practice. And that's actually a document produced by the college that I'll say a little bit more about in a minute. Our program prepares students for the regulator's entry to practice exam, which is a 3-hour multiple choice exam. It's kind of serves as the gateway to the profession. Everybody who wants to become a regulated immigration consultant has to pass that exam. But this program at Queen's does a lot more than just equip students to pass that entry to practice exam. Indeed, I would suggest that the entry to practice exam kind of represents the floor of our program. while our competencies and learning outcomes throughout the program are more like the ceiling. We aim to provide students with a really deep understanding of law, policy, and procedure, as well as all the soft skills needed to practice in a wide range of professional roles in what we call the immigration ecosystem. In other words, the wide sector of immigration-related work, not just immigration consultants, but policy analysts, advocates, settlement sector workers, human resource professionals, and a whole range. One thing that's quite unique about our program is that from the ground up, we've been guided by a national advisory committee, a group of people who include licensed immigration consultants, but also prominent members of the Immigration and Refugee Bar and representatives from the community settlement sector, people across the country who work directly with newcomers. And we've done that for a reason. We don't want to be an ivory tower program. Absolutely, we're a robust academic program, but we're also a program that aims to prepare people for real live jobs in the labor market. And we want to be sure that we're guided by people with that field experience who can ensure that our program best meets its stated goals. So if you're interested in seeing who's on that advisory committee, the membership, bios of everyone are all on the GDIP website. So I'm ready for the next slide, please. A little bit about what your journey will look like in terms of the program experience if you pursue an application and are admitted into the program. So the first thing to say is there are 9 courses in order to complete the program and become a graduate like Peri and Raidel. And they're mandatory courses. There's no sort of mix and match. It's not a menu. It's not a choose your own adventure program. It's 9 mandatory courses that are taken in a particular sequence term by term. The other thing to say is that there are many online programs that are wholly asynchronous. And by that, I mean, you do it by yourself at your own pace. You work by yourself and perhaps sitting in your, at your desk all on your own. That's not what this program is. Definitely, there's a huge element of what we call asynchronous learning, but there's also a very important element of live video conferenced tutorials and plenaries where students have an opportunity to get together as a community of learners with this country's national and leading experts in immigration and citizenship law to learn through firsthand interactions. So in that sense, it's both immersive and interactive. That's the second icon from the left. I also want to say a few words about the workload. We compare it to a full-time job. Certainly for full-time students, taking the courses on a full-time basis, you will be working as hard and as long as if you were holding down a full-time job, and sometimes even more, particularly for the first foundations course, which is an intensive course and really is 40+ hours a week. There's a lot of emphasis on self-regulated time management because unlike being in a classroom where you have the instructor at the front of the classroom all the time, there's a great deal of time spent on your own working through instructional materials. I've mentioned the tutorials. The other thing I think I'd like to talk about are the customized readings and multimedia resources available in this program. Many of our courses feature what we call Practitioner Speaks video series, where there's interviews with people working in the field, speaking about the tips and tools of practice in immigration and all the practical things that you often don't learn about just by reading in a textbook. So that's, I think, a really signature element of this program is the customized learning resources that we offer. And also a little bit about the assessments. Unlike some courses where you wait and don't have an assessment until the end of the course, and it's 100% exam, we have assessments throughout every course, both formative and summative, many opportunities to demonstrate what students have learned. So that's just a little bit, and certainly at a very high level of what the program experience is like. Ready for the next slide. I mentioned the competencies that this program strives to deliver. In effect, what we expect students to learn by the end of the program, and especially for those who want to practice in the area of immigration and become immigration consultants. So the federal regulator, the college, has developed what they call 9 units of competencies. And each one of those units opens up into an accordion with many more subunits and metrics for assessing the acquisition of those competencies. And I would just introduce them by saying these are the foundation stone of how we developed our program to ensure that students are not just learning knowledge, but they're learning actual skills. So how to research, how to manage a case, how to manage your immigration practice if you become a solo practitioner, how to develop advocacy skills, and what are the hallmarks of effective advocacy. Things like cultural competence, communication skills, critical thinking and problem solving, all of that is baked into the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law, aligned with these competencies as developed by the college. Next slide, please. So here are the courses. I mentioned there were 9 of them. I'm not going to read the slide, but I'll just mention that they range in length from 6 weeks to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity of the subject matter. I'll also mention that baked into both the first course of the program, which is Foundations of Canadian Immigration Law, and the final course of the program, Immigration Practice Management, are special skills-related modules. We kind of say jokingly that they're skills boot camps, not because they're unpleasant, but because they're very intentionally designed as an immersion in legal skills instruction. So both at the beginning to help ensure that students have a good foundation, and at the end to make sure that students have a chance to consolidate skills-related learning. The key things needed for practice, like research and writing and advocacy skills, all have an opportunity to be supported and assessed in the program. So those are the 9 courses. And just a word about the delivery model. I mentioned 9 courses over 3 terms. That's for students who study on a full-time basis, and we just have the course codes in this chart. But just to know, it's offered in a very specific sequence. And then we also have the option to study part-time, which typically means taking the program over 24 months rather than 12. There is an option to extend into 36 months, but that's the absolute outer limit. And there's another suggested sequencing for a 36-month study plan if students wish. Next slide, please. So I think it's back to you, Don, on this one.
It is. Thank you so much, Sharry. That was fantastic information. And again, all of this information well highlighted in our website as well as in this presentation. And we'll be hosting very similar presentations with a lot of great information in the future. But for now, let's jump over to the other component that a lot of our prospective applicants are interested in hearing about, and that's the student experience. So we have Peri and Raidel with us today, and we've developed 3 questions that we wanted to ask each of you in regards to the GDip program experience as a student. So Raidel, if you want to kick off and kind of take us through these 3 questions and your responses to them. Oh, you are muted.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. So I just saying thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here. So why did I take the program? So that's a really good question. All right. So I was drawn to specialize in immigration law within my legal practice. I have a legal background. I have a law degree. I have a paralegal diploma from Hamburg College, and I've been in the legal field for over 10 years. So again, I was drawn to specialize in immigration law within my legal practice, and Queen's University Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law. It's renowned for its comprehensive curriculum and STEAM faculty in this field. So attaining the regulated Canadian immigration consultant designation was a key professional milestone for me. And Queen's stellar reputation in legal education promised a rigorous training I sought. My personal interest in the intricacies of immigration policy and law align well with Queen's University approach to tackling complex legal subjects. And lastly, the program offered by Queen's University was especially appealing because it's known for staying abreast of legal developments, which was crucial for my ambition to be at the cutting edge of immigration law. So my experience in the program. So I typically dedicated my mornings to fulfilling my role. Back then, I was working at the Department of Justice Canada, and I took advantage of the work from home arrangements to manage time effectively. Afternoons and evenings were systematically allocated to coursework, ensuring I attended all live online sessions and dedicated time to study. Weekends were used to catch up on course readings and participate in discussion forums, which is an integral part of the learning process. To maintain a healthy work-life balance, I adhere to a strict schedule that included regular breaks and a commitment to regular exercise, and that proved vital for mental and physical well-being. And lastly, the discipline approach allowed me to fulfill my work responsibilities while progressing academically, demonstrating the feasibility of balancing a demanding job with further education. And how are you using the knowledge and skills in your current role? So right now I work as a duty counsel with the immigration representation program at Legal Aid Ontario. So I couldn't I couldn't do my job, my current job, without the knowledge and skills I developed while at the Graduate Diploma at Queen's. Really, it's the skills and the knowledge, the experience. It's invaluable, and I couldn't be able to do the current job that I'm doing right now without those skills and that experience. So that would be for me. I'll pass it over to Peri.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Raidel.
Thank you.
Peri, over to you.
Sure, absolutely. Again, thank you very much for having me here today as well. So my name is Peri. I'm one of the GDipICL graduates from the fall 2021 cohort. I study full-time, but unlike Raidel, I am totally new to the legal field. At the time I applied for the program, I have just been approved my PR status outside Canada, so was preparing to move here for the first time ever in my life. I did my own PR application and was very interested in how all these things work. As well, I was thinking about starting a new career as a newcomer. So when I learned about this program, back then it was still a rather new program. I thought, why not give it a try? This is the only English program available for RCIC-IRBs, and it's offered by Queen's University, obviously a prestigious university in Canada. I believe the program would be well structured and designed, and the lecturers would be highly qualified, and that I could get many of my questions answered by lecturers and anyone in the program. So I applied and luckily got accepted. So I started the program 1.5 months after my landing as permanent resident while I was still settling here. It was crazy, but I eventually made it. I completed the program in July 2022, and I graduated in October 2022 with 4.3 overall GPA. I was one of the recipients of the KPIC Award of Academic Excellence 2022. And almost right after I've completed the program, I started working with Simon Immigration Consultants and Recruitment, an immigration firm based in Edmonton, Alberta, where I'm located. First in an immigration assistant role, and then I wrote my EPE, the entry to practice exam, in September 2022 and got my RCIC-IRB license in February this year, February 2023. And I now am one of the RCICs in the firm. So my experience in the program, this program is, to be honest, very challenging for me, but also extremely fulfilling. The first week into ICL 810, the foundation course, was especially stressful for me, as I was still adapting, first of all, settling in Canada, and adapting my pace, understanding how the course works, and there were lots of readings to start with. But everything felt better for me after ICL 810, well, until ICL 860, the refugee course. But overall, the program was very enjoyable, and it absolutely exceeded my expectation. I've also met a lot of amazing lecturers and colleagues from this program. Many of them I'm still in touch with, and we still have discussions on many technical and like information. We do the discussion very often. The most valuable things I've learned from the program included how to understand the legal framework of immigration law, how to find information, how to read case law, how to write strong legal arguments, how to locate information, policies, procedures, and how to be an ethical practitioner and be able to identify potential ethical issues. I value these skills a lot. And I'm also using these skills on a daily basis at work. I am grateful for having applied for this program, and of course for being accepted to the program. It was one of the biggest and the best decisions I've made in life. Maybe a little bit exaggerated, but I really feel that way. So yeah, that's a little bit about my experience to the program. Back to you, Don.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Raidel and Peri. It demonstrates just how different individuals come to our program, how they take advantage of the learning, they persevere through it, and have very kind of different but similar experiences all at the same time. So it's great to hear from you both. We will hear more from you as well as you, Sharry, later on when we get to the Q&A section. For now, though, let's go ahead and jump into the admission experience. So this is my section, and I'll go a little bit into it for everyone here. So a lot of the questions that we received via our Q&A submission form was in relation to specific admission criteria. This webinar is going to provide you with some general information. We have some very admission-heavy webinars coming up for the remainder of the year and going into January before we open up the application. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity to learn more about the specific admission criteria. But for now, I just want to give you a general overview as to what you need to be eligible for admission consideration for the GDipICL program. The number one thing that you need to know is that as a graduate level program at a prestigious university in Canada, the primary requirement is an undergraduate degree with a B average. We review 3-year, 4-year undergraduate degrees, but that's the number one component when it comes to admission into our program. The second is references. We want to see 2 references. They can be professional in nature, so managers or supervisors from a current or previous work experience. We also accept volunteer coordinators, individuals who would have led you at a volunteer experience. If you've been at an academic program, post-secondary program within 2 years from the application, you can utilize one of your references for an academic reference. So that would be a professor, instructor, somebody in a position of leadership at a post-secondary institution who can attest to your abilities in the classroom. So these are extremely important. We go over references explicitly in a reference-specific webinar later on in the year. So definitely take a look for that. One of the major components when it comes to the application as well is the personal statement of interest statement, or PSI statement for short. We ask you one question. You have 400 words maximum to offer your response to that question in your own words. We want to hear from you. No assistance from others, AI generation, anything along those lines. This is your opportunity to really stand out from the quantitative components of the application. So you have an opportunity to really provide us with the stories that Raidel and Peri provided us. That's the interesting component to us. We want to hear why this program is what you're applying for, and we want to hear from you explicitly through that PSI statement. The other component that a lot of individuals may have to submit is an English language proficiency test, or ELPT score. It's not for everyone. If you self-identify as a native English speaker, or if you meet any of our exemption criteria, which have been updated, you won't need to submit an ELPT score, possibly. Our admission committee does reserve the right to request one from anybody who is applying for our program, but for many others, that will be a key requirement of the application process. Again, we're going to go into the ELPT requirements more in-depthly through our admission webinar. So if you want to hear more about ELPT scores and the requirements there, definitely sign up for one of our future webinars. There's an additional pathway that I want to highlight here, and it's our access pathway. To receive consideration as an access applicant, it's primarily for those who do not meet the academic admission requirements. So that would be for individuals who maybe didn't achieve a B average in their undergraduate, or maybe they completed a college program. They have maybe some study at the post-secondary degree level, but maybe they just didn't quite complete that. They went to complete a college program as well. That would be the pathway for consideration. And there's a key component for access pathway applicants, and that is the professional experience requirement. So anybody who applies via the access pathway has to provide a resume that highlights a minimum of 5 years of relevant professional experience. Relevant professional experience is defined as work in the law and or immigration field. You can combine those, a lot of different professional experiences together to achieve those 5 years, but that's a key requirement when it comes to anybody who's interested in the access pathway. So again, more information about those requirements will be highlighted in future webinars when it's just me on the call, and we can take your questions at that point. But I really do encourage everybody to visit our admissions webpage to find all of the details about any of these admission criteria, and of course, to sign up for those future webinars. One of the fun things I get to do in my role is to crunch a lot of numbers and look at our demographic statistics. And this slide here just gets you to take a look at our most recent intake for fall 2023 and just how diverse our program is. We have a wide stretch. We have a wide arm. We're grabbing students from across Canada, east, west, and north. It's really great to see just how far our program stretches and how the need for RCICs who are well educated and well trained is a necessity for everybody across Canada, as well as individuals globally. You can see up at the top, we welcome a pretty high contingent of international students into our program every single intake, and it just demonstrates just how far and wide our program is being received and where our students are located. It's always interesting to see where people come from. It's a great sort of fun component of my role, and we just like to share that. We see a lot of individuals from everywhere applying for our program, and that includes domestic and international students. Individuals who may not have PR or citizenship designation in Canada can still apply and take our program. So as I've mentioned several times now, our next admission cycle is going to open up on January 15th for September 2024. So for fall intakes, so September intakes, we do accept both full and part-time applications for admission consideration. And we have made some updates since the last time we held an application cycle for the GDipICL program. We've updated our ELPT exemption criteria. So definitely take a look at our website for that information. As I've mentioned about the PSI question, it used to be a little bit different. Now we have one question, 400-word maximum. So we've updated that. As I've also mentioned during that PSI discussion, we've updated our statement regarding AI generation technology in assisting with the written component. We absolutely discourage that. We, again, really want to hear from you and telling us about your story. So definitely utilize your own voice. And the best way to work on that PSI statement is to take it away, write it in Word, and really work on your statement and make sure it's told from your perspective and gives us exactly what we need to know about you as an applicant to the program. And then we just changed the academic reference requirement. It used to be 5 years out from a post-secondary program that you could utilize an academic reference. Now it's only 2 years. Primarily, we're looking for those professional references, individuals in current or past roles in a professional setting, leadership positions, so managers, supervisors who can speak on your behalf. So again, visit our website. The application is going to close on April 1st. So you have a short window to get your applications in, about 2.5 months, really focused in on applying right, having your documents ready to go. And I do encourage you to visit me when it comes to any of the other webinars that I'm going to be hosting to answer your specific admission related questions. Speaking of questions, though, we are going to jump right into our Q&A. So as I mentioned previously, we solicited these questions ahead of time. We're not going to do any solicitation today in the webinar. We got some great questions for each of our panelists to speak on. If you need more information about the program, if you have more detailed questions that you want to ask us, I encourage you to email myself and my team at immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca. We're there to help and answer your questions, provide as much information as we can. We then send you to the correct links to gather the information that you may need in preparation for the application or even during the application cycle. So let's go ahead and jump in. And I think, Sharry, you've got the first group of questions here. So the first question that we received is, can an RCIC live and work abroad?
Thank you, Don. And yes, indeed, one can practice in the area of immigration from anywhere in the world. Many people who are regulated immigration consultants, as well as members of the legal profession who are members of provincial law societies and work in immigration-related areas, spend parts of every year in different parts of the world providing direct service to clients. I will say this, though, in order to maintain one's standing as a member of the profession, as an immigration consultant, it is critical to maintain one's license with the federal regulator, the college. And to do that, regardless of where one lives, one has to do a certain number of hours of continuing professional development every year and complete the required reports and fulfill all the related professional requirements for licensing. So that extends to immigration consultants no matter where they're situated in the world. I'll also mention that increasingly, while it used to be the case that people had to travel far and wide to deliver service to clients, it is now more often than not the case that initial interviews are done through video conferencing software. And so it doesn't really matter where you are, which may mean that you're in Canada, but it may also mean you're somewhere else. So definitely in relation to the question, one can live and work almost anywhere and still practice in this area and be a licensee of the college. So has the program improved? 100% it has. Indeed, I think it's fair to say that when we first launched in January 2021, in the middle of a global pandemic, we started with a very small pilot. There were less than 100 students registered in that first cohort, and none of us necessarily felt we were hugely ready for program launch, but the date was already committed to, and we launched the program. But we've certainly done a lot of fine-tuning since that very first offering. We've improved the instructional materials, we've improved the activities that students participate in and the assessments. And we've also done a lot more work around instructor training and support to make sure that student learning experiences in the program are the best possible. So I think I want to say it's still a work in progress because it's a relatively new program. But I think we're well on our way to being a truly flagship program in this space. So why should prospective consultants take the Queen's program and seek licensing? I mentioned a few moments ago that it's possible to work outside of Canada. Why would someone necessarily need the Queen's program? And I will say this. In order to provide representation to anyone seeking immigration services in Canada, it is necessary to either be an immigration consultant licensed with the college, a lawyer licensed with a provincial law society, or a notary public slash consultant that is duly registered in the province of Quebec, which has a slightly different system, or a paralegal licensed in Ontario. Ontario is the only province in Canada that has a specific program for paralegals, but the scope of practice for paralegals is actually restricted. So they don't have the same ability to represent a wide range of immigration-related services at this time. It is only by becoming a lawyer or an immigration consultant that one can offer the full suite of services. So in a nutshell, the Queen's program and its French language counterpart offered by the University of Montreal are the only pathways by which today people can become licensed to practice in this field and do so legally. There is a sector of what we call ghost consultants out there, people who have not received the training, who are not recognized by either the Immigration and Refugee Board or Citizenship and Immigration Canada, the federal department in charge of immigration, as legal representatives. And that means that it's not lawful to provide services without that licensing. It's impossible to interact with either the government or the Immigration and Refugee Board on behalf of a client if you're not licensed. And there are significant fines and consequences for people who are providing service without a license. So in a nutshell, while there are many people providing visa advice and related services out there in the world without the proper credentials, it is illegal to do so. And so I would encourage anyone who has any interest in providing immigration services to prospective immigrants or refugees to Canada to get the appropriate credentials and licenses so that you can properly provide service within the parameters of the law. And finally, what's my advice for prospective students in terms of preparing people for the program? I want to offer a little anecdote from my own experience taking an online program a few years ago before this program actually launched. Up until that time, I had never actually been a student in an online program. I had taught in a couple before, but I'd never actually had the experience of being a student. And I thought, if I'm going to be in charge of a whole program like this, I better have the experience myself of what it's like to take an online program, so I have a better idea of how to prepare our own students. And what I found was that the pace of these programs is incredibly fast. Unlike in a sort of classroom setting where typically the group meets once a week and you have a whole week in between classes to prepare for the next one, in an online program, and certainly like this graduate diploma, there are activities to engage in, at least 5 days a week's worth. And then if you save them up for the weekend, for example, and you don't do anything all week, it becomes overwhelming. And I certainly found that in my own experience taking this other course, that I'd be getting these reminders and I'd be like, oh my God, I haven't touched it for 5 days. I'm already so behind. And it's like that in the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law. If you prepare yourself for a work schedule, even if you're taking it part-time, but a work schedule where you will dip in at least 5 days a week and spend some significant time engaging with the instructional materials, you'll be well prepared for the program. But if you plan to continue your busy life the way it already is and try to do this program on the side of your desk, it's a recipe for a lot of frustration and stress. So my best advice is, if you're planning to take this program, whether full-time or part-time, you clear your schedule of at least some responsibilities and commitments so that it's not a stressful experience and so that you can take maximum advantage of the opportunities that the program offers. So I think that would be my number one advice. Back to you, Don.
Thank you very much, Sharry. Much appreciated. I have the next slide. I have the next few questions, so I'll answer them now. So one of the questions we received was, I want to study part-time. Is there a deadline to complete the course? So as Sharry outlined in kind of the program structure slide, part-time studies can be completed in 2 years primarily, or there is a 3-year part-time study plan available. Part-time study plans are only available for students who apply for the September intakes, however, so just be aware of that. You're coming up to the right application cycle to be considering part-time studies. As Sharry's also outlined, though, there's not much difference in regards to full-time and part-time studies when it comes to being in program. You still complete the same coursework, you complete the same assignments, you take the same quizzes, you're participating in the same online tutorials. The only difference between a full-time and part-time student is the number of courses you take per term. So again, you really have to factor in that time commitment, trying to relieve your schedule of as much requirements professionally and personally as you can in order to commit yourself to the program as best as you can. The next question, is there a difference between, is there a different tuition/fees for Canadian citizens and PR holders versus international students? The answer to that is no. All of our students are paying the same tuition amount that is listed on our tuition and financing webpage. Students pay tuition per term and only for the courses they are enrolled in. So a full-time student will pay for 3 courses for the first term, 3 for the second, 3 for the third. Part-time students will pay 1 or 2 courses depending on that specific term. There's additional supports when it comes to tuition payments, specifically around the Queen's tuition payment plan, which allows for students to break down their tuition fees into 4 equal installments across that term. When it also comes to tuition support, we have an entrance bursary for a select few full-time applicants who can demonstrate financial need. That application also opens along with the program application. So we encourage all of our applicants who are applying for our program to also apply for the bursary. We also have a partnership with RBC to offer our students a line of credit. That's for both full-time and part-time students. And they have great information available through our RBC representatives, which also are available via our tuition and financing page. One of the things we do encourage students to consider is that they have a Canadian citizen co-signer for any of their line of credit discussion. So just be prepared when you're going into that conversation. Next question, does the program require an English language proficiency test score for admission? As I previously outlined on my admissions page or my admissions slides, for some, it definitely will. There are some exemption criteria. If you self-identify as a native English speaker, if you have attended 4 or more consecutive full-time years of study at an accredited university in the medium of English, you may not have to submit an ELPT score. Also, we have a program called the ESLA 150 program through the Queen's School of English. So for anybody who wants to take this course, you can apply to that through the September intakes only. Additionally, if you took any university level English for academic purposes course, we can evaluate that against the Queen's School of English program if that was completed within 24 months of the application. So just be aware of all of those requirements. And again, our admission committee reserves the right to request an ELPT from any applicant at any point during the admissions process. It is very important that our students are English language proficient. This is the only point in which you have to demonstrate your English language proficiency. There is no longer a requirement when you're interested in taking the entry to practice exam with the college. So we really want our individuals to be proficient because, as everybody has already outlined, the program's intensive, it can be very complicated, and you have to be proficient in English to be able to complete it. The final question I have on my slide is, can students in different time zones participate in classes? Absolutely. We welcome students from across the globe. We currently have students who are located in India, who are located in Australia, a lot in the US in different time zones. And of course, across Canada, there are 6 different time zones that you have to contend with. Provided that you can attend your tutorials in the Eastern time zone, Eastern Standard Time Zone, then you're fine to complete the program wherever you are located. We're purely online. Nothing is done in person. The only component that we encourage people to consider when it comes to in-person is convocation. We'd love to see you on campus to walk across the stage, but everything else is done completely virtually when it comes to our program. I am now going to pass it over to our students to provide some responses to these questions. So Peri, if you want to go ahead and begin with the first question, was it easy to learn in an online setting?
Of course, online setting was fine for me. Although I would love to enjoy some campus life at Queen's and in Kingston, staying at home was even better. I can just like wake up 10 minutes before tutorial and I didn't need to travel at all, except from my bed to the study room. Anyways, the only issue I had was that sometimes I just couldn't help sitting at my desk all day studying or reading materials.
Excellent. Raidel, how was your experience with online learning?
So it was different. It was my first time learning in an online environment. So at the very beginning, it was a bit challenging. Now, what I found was that if you focus on self-discipline, you should be able to adapt effectively. So right now I'm completing a law degree at Essex University in the UK, and it's all virtual. So having the experience from Queen's has helped me quite a bit, to be honest with you. And again, it's just all about time management, just timekeeping, not leaving things for the very end. Just making sure that you keep on top of your readings and assignments and discussions. But just circling back, if you focus on the online setting, just focus on self-discipline, you should be able to do well.
Excellent. Raidel, I'll keep you on the line here for the second question. Was there anything you wish you knew when you started the program that you would tell prospective students?
Sure. So when I joined, I was working full-time. A very challenging, demanding job at the Department of Justice, and it's like, okay, maybe this is an online program. It shouldn't be as rigorous or demanding. I couldn't be more wrong. I was completely off. So you have to anticipate that this is a very rigorous academic program. The schedule, it's intense. You have to recognize that time management is crucial. So, start early on engaging with your academic advisors and tutors, and also ensure that you have an active participation in all interactive components of the program. That would be vital to enhance understanding and to be able to retain the materials. It's a lot. So it's like you're getting all this information just condensed into 6 to 8 weeks. So you can expect that it's going to be a lot of readings, and so be up for the challenge. And again, just establish a reliable peer support system early on. Okay, so you have amazing classmates. So make sure that you create your network from like early on in the program, so that way you can rely on someone if you have to.
Excellent. Peri, same question to you. Was there anything that you wish you would have known way back when you started the program?
First of all, when listening to what Raidel's just been sharing, I kept nodding my head vigorously. And I can assure everyone here that's participating in today's session that what Sharry's #1 advice for prospective students, are all very valid. So basically, Raidel just spoke my mind. What I would like to add is don't just aim for passing all the courses and completing the program. Aim for getting the real knowledge for yourself for future use. That would be from me.
Excellent. That's great. Peri, we'll stick with you. What was your favorite course?
I had kind of a love-hate relationship with ICL 810, the foundation course. It was a nightmare, but also an amazing course where I could know something about everything on immigration law in 6 weeks. So as I mentioned, I was totally new in this field. I didn't know anything about immigration, but that 6 week, the amount of readings almost killed me, but it didn't. But I truly appreciate the materials we were given. Down the road in the program, many of the concepts I learned from 810 helped explain a lot of things.
Excellent. Raidel, your favorite course?
Tough question. So I enjoy every single one of them. If I have to choose one, it would be refugee protection and trauma-informed client service. The reason I like that specific course was because it had a very practical structure, included case studies and mock hearings. So it was, it was very engaging, provided hands-on experience that mirror real life applications. So I value the direct correlation between the course content and the practical situations I face with clients today. It offers a deeper insight into the circumstances and the legal frameworks at play. So, the refugee protection course enriched my academic journey, but also significantly bolstered my professional competencies, providing to be extremely valuable for my ongoing work in immigration law.
Very nice. Let's go to the opposite side. What was the most challenging course for you, Raidel, and what resources did you use to overcome the obstacles?
Right. So the most challenging one, so that was the economic migration course. So the reason that that was very challenging for me, it's because of the variety of immigration streams and pilot programs it covers. It's like there is a new program popping up every day, and with all the IRCC portals being created, it was hard to keep track of everything that was going on with that in that sphere of immigration law. It's a very dynamic sub area of immigration law. It's ever evolving, and it necessitates an additional dedication. So I think that was the course where I didn't do as well as the other ones, and that was the reason why. It's because you have to really focus on it. And if you are taking 2 courses at the same time simultaneously, then it's working full time as well. It's just hard to keep on top of everything that you have to do on that course. Anyways.
Excellent. Peri, same question to you.
I think it really depends on your background and interest. For me, economic 840 was kind of my favorite. And 860, Raidel, your favorite, was my most challenging course, to be honest. Because I didn't have any concept on refugee side of things. And it was a lot to understand case law, a lot of readings, and something I'd never imagined myself touching or getting into, at least at the beginning of my career. So 860 for me. But for 890, it wasn't really challenging, and I enjoyed that a lot. Especially that was the final course of the program. But it kind of bring me into the real life, how to manage a practice and such. I found that quite challenging, but also it gave me a good sense of what it's like as a practitioner out there. So from that course, it was challenging for me because I had to understand like how the administrative side of things work, and what I should expect if I am to have my own practice. So it actually helped me, guided me to think about what I wanted to do and what I didn't. So I eventually decided that I didn't want to start as a sole practitioner, but as an employee with a firm. That was kind of a journey for me in 890, but it was a fun journey. resources, program materials, textbooks, and your lecturers and peers. I asked lots of questions. Everybody in the program knows. And I ask for feedbacks as well all the time. So don't be shy and keep asking questions, seeking help.
Excellent. Excellent advice from both of you. Much appreciated. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of our official webinar presentation. This slide here demonstrates just the number of webinars that are coming up just within the next few months here. You will be receiving an email if you have signed up for our mailing list. If you haven't, I'm going to encourage you to do so. I'm actually going to go ahead and throw it into the chat here for everybody. Go ahead and find us at immigrationdiploma.queenslaw.ca/contact and sign up for our mailing list, and you'll receive information about how to register for my admission specific webinars starting next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing my first one. And as you can see, the events that are happening on November 29th and November 30th, I'm doing back-to-back webinar days to specifically look at transcripts and references in one, and ELPTs and the access pathway in another. We get a ton of questions about those specific topics, and I think it's just going to be really great information if you're really interested in a specifically focused webinar. As well, the other ones are going to be more general to the admission process, but just as important when it comes to understanding the admission criteria moving forward. As already mentioned, January 15th is when we're going to be opening up our September 2024 application. Begin the process now of acquiring your information, your documents, your transcripts, start contacting your references, get yourself prepared, and we're here to support you throughout the process. And the way that you can reach out to us is by visiting us on our website, immigrationdiploma.ca, following us on Facebook, or asking us direct questions to immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca. I want to thank Sharry, Peri, and Raidel for being a part of this presentation today. Greatly appreciate the three of you being here. Again, we're always hearing about people who want to hear more from the student perspective, and Sharry, especially your perspective when it comes to the foundation of this course. So thank you three for being here today.
It's our pleasure, Don. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to hearing from you and hopefully welcome you into the program.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. If you have any further information, by all means, find us on our website, email us. We're happy to help. But for now, we're going to end the webinar here. Thank you very much. Go out and have yourself a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are located. Take care.